record.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, before I go into my argument, I would like to do the rebuttal of what the opposition team already stated. So, the opposition team stated that the K-pop industry also presents hard work and talent. However, what they doesn't tell is what it takes to be an idol is very, very concerning, ladies and gentlemen. The K-pop industry also is not about beauty and looks, but also the hard work that it takes to become an idol. In order to be an idol, they must be a trainee first. So, becoming a trainee, they must have a contract signed, a respectful diet, which is very, very unhealthy, and also from that contract signs, they must do a dance and vocal training every day. Every single things that they eat, every single things that they do must be under the supervisor of their agency. And what is actually so wrong about this? This is because the environment or the environment that the agency create here is very, very stressful, that it actually makes the trainee affect their mental health, that they are becoming stressed, even depressed. And this is a very inhuman thing to do, because they have to because they normalize hard work and stress environment as a way to be a successful idol in Korea, in K-pop industry. And then they are also being forced to take a measure, like I've said it before, to ensure that they fall in line with the standard they created themselves. The K-pop industry here, the problem is they know what they did is very harmful. They created this standard for the trainee to fit in with the standard. So, but they don't really care about the trainee. They only care about the profit that they will get, so that the trainee will follow the standard they create. So they will gain popularity and more money. And then the second rebuttal that I would like to bring is the opposition stated that K-pop industry is just trying to fulfill the demand from the society. However, this demand's only becoming worse and worse and becoming more, because the idol is forced to follow the beauty standard through strict training and plastic surgery, like I've said it before. And they also stated that it is the society's fault on how beauty standards are made. The thing is, oftentimes people doesn't understand how harmful things that they enjoy. If we compare to another things besides K-pop, the K-pop industry, we can take a look at drugs or even cigarette. They know what they did is harmful, and they don't realize it. We cannot blame them for the ignorance that they have, because if we reflect back to with the K-pop industry, the K-pop industry have the power to make a differences in averting them from danger and preventing them from harming themselves. The same, so yeah, the K-pop industry is the one that have the power to make a change, because they are the one who has responsibility for that standard, because they are the knowing ones here. And then I would like to continue with my my argument here. So the K-pop industry is currently the biggest industry in the entertainment world. They gradually gain popularity as the time goes by. Due to its big impact, they have a lot of international fans coming from different parts of the world, from Asia, America, Africa, Europe, West, and East. They have a lot of diverse fans, right? So these fans tend to use their idols as a role model, and even these fans also range from teenagers. So they become this age tend to be prone to be obsessed with another with the idol. So they become a diehard fans, and some of them are actually trying to follow their idol's traits to be like them, and including physical looks, like we've already talked in this debate, which is the beauty standard that are presented by the K-pop industry. So what is the impact from this? The impact is will also be felt by the fans itself, because these teenagers, they are obsessed with with their K-pop idols. So they are obsessed with the unrealistic beauty standards that are presented by their K-pop idol. So this will affecting them in psychology, because the portrayal of the K-pop idol itself is already very unrealistic, because they are skinny, they have a paper white skin that not every one or every race can have this looks. So, and also that the industry in Korean are very normalizing plastic surgery, and it is happening too often, because they are already famous for making beauty standard that will affect them from doing the plastic surgery. And also, one thing that I would like to say is that women and men should have the freedom of how comfortable they wanted to look. So if feminism doesn't start opposing the K-pop beauty standard, there will be no allowance of diversity. So diversity is what we want, right? Because it is more realistic and more representable for people all around the world. Therefore, every talent can flourish into this industry without having to counting on luck, such as what is happening before from the Korean artist also, which is PSY. So that is all my argument for today's motion, and thank you.
My partner's speech has lasted 6 minutes, 34 seconds. Resetting the timer. Preparing. And the government whip would like to start in 3, 2, 1. The government whip would first like to start with rebutting 5 major points that the opposition raised by reinforcing the government's beliefs as stated by this House, starting from the opposition leader. The opposition leader said that the OG did not show why we must aggressively oppose K-pop industry. However, we would argue that the OG did a fine job establishing unfairness within the K-pop industry to bias towards some more molded artists, purposely making it harder for artists that are not fitting into the industry standards to reach the mainstream media. Secondly, the unrealistic beauty standards are also set by Western artists. To this degree, however, we believe that it is actually a lesser state, as there are also incredibly renowned singers such as Adele, whom is considered by many to be absolutely gorgeous despite not fitting into the thin, curvaceous, and Asian descent of beauty set by K-pop standards. Nor does it fall in line with the thin and curvaceous body standards that are set by as analogized by the opposition of Kim Kardashian. The third point that we would like to argue against is that the opposition deputy leader said that OG did not establish why K-pop should be the sole target of this movement. However, we must reiterate that our argument stands, that we acknowledge that K-pop is not the only threat to feminism. However, we also still stands that K-pop is an unfair and unrealistic force that has yet to be opposed by feminist movements. The fourth point being that K-pop influences a variant to beauty standards, which we would argue is unrealistic and very hypocritical of the opposition when referring to variety and diversity, despite knowing full well that the only thing K-pop beauty standard brought to the table is a harsher culture that demoralizes you when you do not fall into it. This is proven accurate when we even take a look at Korean culture as it is, not just in a worldwide state or in Indonesia, but people in the Korean culture actually even demoralize one another when they do not fall into this category of beauty that K-pop has set. Lastly, that the K-pop industry does not influence couple preferences, that the opposition deputy leader would still marry Indonesian people. This is true, perhaps, but the opposition deputy leader is recklessly dismissing the fact that one person is not the correct sample for this analogy. It is clear that the opposition deputy leader is not someone fixated on the K-pop industry, but those that follows this trend would likely have such an unrealistic standard that oftentimes venture unrealistically far for such standards to be met. I will now summarize the opening government's points, which the opposition team seemed to have completely ignored. The government opposes K-pop industry due to their unjust treatment of artists that do not fit the imagery they are looking for. That this feminist movement must flourish to oppose the standards imposed by the K-pop industry. K-pop industry is oppressive with their ideal standard that women should be thin and cheerful as the prime form of beauty. This imagery that is constantly pushed to the public without allowing for non-molded artists into the mainstream distorts the image of regular, impressionable females that they need to look like the idols to appear beautiful. We acknowledge, again, that feminists already has a massive agenda, and although not all of it are implemented as of yet, progressive ideas are motivating it, as it should motivate this particular feminist movement as well, because the K-pop industry has been overly glorified throughout the years. Grossly so, splashing its influence to other industries such as the motion pictures and even cosmetic industries. That this that it is important to aggressively oppose the K-pop industry so as to not hinder government policies that may prevent the overselling of overly standardized, unrealistic appearances of idealistic Korean figures. Opposing the K-pop industry would help inspire other social movements of feminism to safely generate a safer sanctuary for those that follows these trends of K-pop. Thus, further extending on the matter is my partner, who have extended the argument from the opening government that would be distinguished matters by opened by the opposition, rebutting points that our opening may have missed, such as number one, the damaging influence K-pop industry has to impressionable younger audiences, such as the twin females that have been historically known to obsess over things in their younger age that often damages their psyche. Number two, that the K-pop industry also damages the talents working for them on top of selling unrealistic standards, objectifying females, especially when we see at girl bands often looking the way they are through intensive procedures. Speaking of, number three, plastic surgery and the unrealistic approaches of beauty morphing are becoming normalized, which is needless to say a horrible culture for the future of females and non-females alike. Then number four, that it is our duty as the knowing ones to defend feminism against the unrealistic standards of Korean industry, as they themselves likely don't know what damage they do to their psyche from overly idolizing the artists within K-pop culture. The opposition leader mentioned that the K-pop industry is needed because of the demand of society. However, it is that very demand that we wish to abolish, that we should rationalize the K-pop industry's demands through unjust beauty standards and intense selective procedure to create a society where demands for such standards are non-existent or at the very least lessened. On top of that, the opposition team seemed to push the agenda of anti-feminism, on top of trying to oppose the government faction by saying that we should not pursue the objective of rationalizing such beauty standards of Korean pop culture, and blames people for their indecisiveness on setting beauty standards, which is just completely outrageous. But in fact, it is against the greatest of odds that we must fight for a change. Once upon a time, Black lives didn't even matter, and it was through long and arduous fight that people now see the differences. No fight is meaningless when it comes to defending the self-worth of the people, and defending the self-worth of females that are engrossed in this K-pop culture should not be considered any different. We must acknowledge the harmful influences K-pop's factory-like production of these idols to not just females but the younger generation as a whole. But this feminism act is one of the biggest way to actually contemplate this movement. And that would be the conclusion from me and the closing faction of the government. Thank you.